Hello, everyone.
Hello, it's Tanya.
Hi, Tanya. Kate, do we know if everybody will be here tonight?
The only person, Steve Carell will be a few minutes late, but other than that, I haven't heard that anybody might. I know that Andrew had some illness in the family, but I hadn't heard that he wouldn't be on. But if he isn't, that could be why.
Okay. But it looks like we have quorum, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And Kate, would you call the roll?
Yes. Barb Hart,
Yeah, here.
Andrew Dewart, Ron Mitchell,
Here.
Danielle Kraus, I see Danielle. Okay. Steve Roundtree,
Here.
Catherine Vallon,
Here.
Scott Papich,
Here.
Trustee Corvalin,
Here.
Danielle Kraus. We'll try one more time. Now she's not here. Well, nope.
See her on the screen, but
Yeah, I see her.
yeah.
Danielle, can you hear us? Could you raise your hand so I know that you hear us? Okay.
Just text her real quick too.
And you do have quorum.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. All right, let's start with the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Hey Barb, I just got a message from you. Can you hear me?
Now we can hear
can
you, Danielle.
Thank you. Hi, Danielle.
Uh-oh, something's wrong with my audio. Hold on, I'll look into it.
No, we can hear you now. We
Yep.
can hear you now.
And we know you're there, which is awesome. If there are no questions or comments on the consent agenda, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
One quick question.
Yes.
There's a check to to JVA on Big Springs. Is that for continuing work on the status of the Big Springs project at this time? Or is that for
Yes.
what was done?
That was for project management fees and everyone, you need to mute if you're a call-in user, else there's a terrible echo. Thank you.
Right, I think I got this now. Am I heard?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is for project management, and mostly it was the review of the draw application, the payment application on our behalf before it comes to us. And that was all mostly in December and a little bit of January.
Okay,
But that was largely what that was for.
Will this likely continue until the project is
No,
finalized?
we probably won't get a bill this month because we haven't talked to him in a while, but we might, as we're getting ready to gear up again and get the paving going, there might be a little bit of fees, that time incurred from our project manager, over at that, but I don't anticipate very much until we're actually going again, which again won't be very much either. So it'll be pretty quick once the weather is ready for it.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
And we'll have continuing fees with JVA with the
Performance
space. Yep.
Right, got it.
But that'll be broken out separately. So you'll see those costs separated.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda. I will second that.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you call the roll?
Steve Crow. Just wanted to see if I caught him yet. Barb Hart,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Scott Papich,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all. I see a call-in user. Is that you, Andrew?
Okay,
All right,
I muted. It's Miranda. I muted the call-in user,
Yep.
so that person will have to press *6, and it maybe is Ron.
Oh, okay.
It's probably
I just
me.
wanted to.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure and see, just to see if we caught him. Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? I'm not hearing or seeing any. So we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the informational items. The chair report is in the packet. I don't have anything to add to that. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. Next is the treasurer's report. Do you have anything to add to that, Ron?
Nothing.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have questions or comments about that? All right, executive director's report is also in the packet. Kate, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thanks, Barb. If anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Great, thank you. And we have a town staff report. Is that Miranda? Do you have anything on that?
I do not have anything to add. Well, actually, maybe just one quick thing. The town is considering doing a town hall on annexation on Tuesday, March 21st. It would be from 6 to 8, and then the regular Board of Trustees meeting would follow. So I know a lot of people are interested in, the expiring of the IGA and annexation. So more to come on that, but we have an interest in doing more town halls like we did the police department on some of these larger scale issues.
What was that date again? Miranda?
Tuesday, March 21st from 6
Okay.
to 8.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any beautification update this month?
The only update is that we have confirmed the order with Duran Hobby Acres per our request at the last meeting. So things are off and going there, and now work won't really. There won't be too much more on that until probably March, April, as we start to plan out how the timing of things. So there won't be too many more updates, but that is probably the biggest, that we got the flowers ordered. So that's the biggest thing that we need to always make sure we accomplish at the very beginning of the year.
Great, thank you. And no update on Big Springs right now. We don't have anything going on with the committee. Correct, Catherine?
Yep. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Communications committee. We'll have a
I
little
have
bit.
an oh,
Yeah, go ahead,
I have an update, if that's all right.
please.
So as I said last meeting, we were working with Peter, and I got a lot of great feedback from Peter, and I put in my executive director report that working on the website is going to be a lot of what I'm doing this month, as well as working with Rita on tying up 2022 and lifting 2023 with town. So that's my little update on the communications committee.
Great, thank you. And performance space, nothing till spring. Is there any update on public art?
We're waiting to hear back from a couple of things, but otherwise nothing to report. No.
Excellent, thank you. And has Steve Carot joined us, or Steve Roundtree? Do you want to do an update on wayfinding, or do you want us to do the Netter Days update first? I don't see Steve Carell on yet.
Yeah, why don't we do Netter Days first and then come back
Great.
and see if Steve Crow's joined it, because he said he'd only be 10 or 15 minutes, so that should be about good timing.
Okay, great. And Miranda, are you doing the Netter Days update?
We actually have Nikki here, and since we do, and she's taking the lead, I'm here as backup, but Nikki was going to give a quick we're going to kind of tag team it.
Perfect.
Yeah, so where we're at with Netter Days planning is well, we've gotten pretty far. I'm getting my paper out. The advertising and marketing piece of the event will be finalized on the web hopefully by Monday. We're planning on advertising in the Mountaineer, register call, utilizing some calendars, the local webs, posters posted around town, and maybe up to like Rollinsville post office, places like that. Ads will kind of head out on Monday. That should be hitting you, Barb, specifically, so we can get an ad in the Mountaineer. And that should happen all on Monday. Some of the activities that are being planned, and some of them are definitely happening, and some of them are still being planned, but the barn dance is a yes. Thibaut did generously offer some money. We haven't received the money, but it is supposedly coming. The silent disco done by Agati, which would feature 50 different headphones with the silent disco. We have 5 ice sculpture teams that'll be placed around town. Stephanie has reached out to 40 different businesses. There's about 10 to go. It really is up to each business to tell Stephanie what plan or idea that they have, and then we will help promote that. But we need the businesses to also promote their own events with their own clientele. We will have the 5K run. Gavin Coombs is going to be working that out. He's already talked with us about the little route. It's not hitting the highway. It's just a little run through town and then up into Big Springs, ending at the train cars. A winter fashions show that will be put on by Wings of Lace. The fire trucks will be placed somewhere in town they'll be hosting making s'mores over the fire. And music will all be inside different venues. And then we have a sledding event that will happen on First Street. We plan on closing down First Street, hard closure starting early Saturday morning, all through the rest of the day Saturday. Public Works is going to be opening First Street back up by Saturday evening so that people can park there to eat dinner and things like that. And is there any other questions?
Nikki, this is Scott. Quick question. Have you
Hi,
gotten
Scott.
any sense? Hi. Have you gotten any sense how enthusiastic, just in general, the businesses are to put on any kind of tiny little sub event or host music that they otherwise wouldn't, or contests or anything out of the ordinary for this Netter Days?
Yeah, we have. Scott, we've had nothing but excitement about this. We've got every business that Stephanie has talked to so far has said what a great idea. We're not just talking about like put on an event like a 30% off sale, because that's not an event, that's just a sale. But we're talking about like the high school doing a tug of war, the snowman contest at the teen center, Latin dancing lessons at Salto. The library is hosting a winter homesteading skills. Kaleidoscope is going to be doing some caricatures. A hot pepper contest at Tres Gringos. There's various different types of events like that all of the businesses that we've spoken to are very excited about participating in this event.
Nice. What's the coolest thing you've heard so far from any of them?
There are some really good ones. I'm excited to see the ice sculptures for sure. I thought today when the fire trucks hosting doing s'mores over the fire, that thrilled my soul. um, so I was actually kind of excited about that one. And then the town is gonna pull off the sled race down First Street. So my parks department is gonna be putting that together and hosting that little piece of the event. Then the high school, what they're doing with the tug of war and things like that, those proceeds, if anyone wants to participate, those proceeds will all go into the parks donations fund, which we are hoping to send 3 to 4 high school kids to High Peaks Camp this year, as well as doing other parks donations, whatever, so that no kids left behind, kind of thing. So, any other questions?
That all sounds great, Nikki. And are you going to be on the meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock to discuss this with the entire town for the businesses?
Peter will be on that meeting tomorrow. Peter and I decided to divide and conquer. I'm doing tonight's meeting. He's doing tomorrow night's.
And then I will be on tomorrow night as well.
Yes,
This is
and I
Tanya.
always have my trust in Miranda.
Will this meeting be recorded?
Meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
Oh, good. Great.
Great, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else on the board have any questions? The meeting tomorrow night is at 6 o'clock. It's on the Town of Nederland website. It's been shared across Facebook, and it is for the businesses to get together and communicate what is going on for the event. So it'll be a lot more in depth than the update this evening.
I just wanted to share. I'm been driving back from Santa Fe. Sorry to interrupt. This is Andrew Dewart. I'm not necessarily going to be able to probably be participating in from full meeting time, but I'll do my best to stay on. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. If there are no other questions or comments this evening, let's move on to the next committee update, which is wayfinding. And I see that Steve Curro has joined us.
Thank you, Barbara. And yeah, sorry I was a bit late. I solo dad this week and I had to pick up some kids. But Steve Roundtree and I met earlier this week and were able to kind of regroup about the wayfinding. And we ran through all the sign locations that we had last visited about a year ago, I think, on the end of phase 1 with Merge. And as I had recalled, it was pretty straightforward, you know, which signs we would want to use and which ones would be phase 2 and, you know, even phase 3, which might never be installed. So we got to this pretty late. I was in Africa for 3 out of 4 weeks in January, so I wasn't able to work on anything with wayfinding. But we're planning to bring a number of items to the March meeting for discussion and potentially 1 or 2 for action items. And so I just wanted to give you an update that we feel pretty confident on the sign locations. And that's something that I think we'll be visiting with Merge throughout the month and we'll bring to the next meeting for probably as an action item for the board to give input and or approve the sign locations we've decided on. So that's one item. And then we feel like we can move forward on the kiosk designs. As we left off on phase 1, we were going to have 4 kiosks in the wayfinding program. And those would be, see if I can remember, at Chipeta Park, and there would be one at the B&F Plaza, most likely right near the entrance as you come from First Street, walking over, so sort of near the train cars. And of course, these are just, you know, ideas at this point, but we'd have that location. And then at the RTD lot on the southeast corner of that lot, and then either by the visitor center or at the corner by the rock shop would be the last one. And we felt that the visitor center was better, but this will be a discussion with the board and with merge before we nail any of that down. But we thought in the meantime, we can start working on kiosk ideas and work with merge on that to flesh it out a bit more and bring that to the March meeting as well, probably as a discussion item. And then let's see, we would like to really take stock of what the parking spaces in town are. What are the public parking spaces that we would be able to direct people to? So we'll be working on that, getting a physical inventory and assessment of what type of parking we have in town. And we'll bring something back to the board to discuss on that at the March meeting. And the last item I think for the March meeting would be some further ideas on the app. And we'll be, just brainstorming on that before we get back to the board with a good discussion. So I guess that's the update. Is we've been kind of off duty for a few months here, but we're really energized to get going on it and to pull merge in now that we're approved to work on phase 2 with them. And I wanted to assure everyone that we're not going to be making any type of unilateral decisions as the committee without running things past the board and seeing, what type of input we want, the board wants to give and approvals before we move forward. I guess that's all I could think of from my notes from our meeting a few days ago. And if anybody has questions, I'd be happy, and Steve or I, and possibly Claudia, I see she's on the meeting, could answer any of the questions.
Great, thank you, Steve. That's a lot of information, and I'm really glad that you guys had a chance to get together and meet. I don't have any other questions. You've really put it together, and I look forward to seeing what you have put together in March on the meeting, and we'll set aside an appropriate amount of time so that we can really discuss it.
Oh, great. And Barbara, there was one thing I forgot that I wanted to mention is we got, thanks very much to town, Peter printed a large format sign map for us of all the sign locations, which helped tremendously because we were working off of 8.5 by 11 pages taped together. And so I was thinking that if we can get it together, I'd like to post that. Perhaps I could post it. We have a spare office now at 80 Big Springs. So maybe I could post it there so that people could just, from the board, could come by and look at it and give feedback between now and the next meeting. And I think that would help us with making that one item at March meeting go much smoother. So if we're able to pull that together, I'll email people to let them know where the map is and that they could come look at it. Because I think it is pretty straightforward, but it would help if everyone had a chance to look at a large format map and give us their feedback. So
I
thank
think
you.
that's a great idea, Steve, and I'd be really happy to help make that happen with you guys. So
Great.
because I do think that
Yeah.
if everybody could stop by at their pleasure or at their leisure and take a look at it and see, so that really does help the conversation in March, I think that could be great.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a lot of information, but I think if people take it in on their own time, it's pretty straightforward information. And also, I wanted to say it doesn't have to be at 80 Big Springs. We just happen to have an office, so I know I can post it in there. But if Town Hall is better or some other location. So Kate, you and I and Barbara maybe could just brainstorm on that in the next few days, and then we'll get a notice out to the board.
That would be great. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about wayfinding? Just not hearing or seeing any. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is actually our action items. And we have beautification funding resolution, and this will be presented by Kate.
All right. So last month we discussed beautification's budget. And as I mentioned, this month I would come back with the formal funding resolution. And this is the same as we've done in previous years. So during the 2023 budget process, the beautification project funding was approved in the amount of $30,000 by the Nederland Downtown Development Authority Board and the Board of Trustees. The attached resolution is needed to authorize the funding and make it available for eligible expenditure. The attached resolution 2023-10 is for review and vote. And my question for you is, does the board approve resolution 2023-10 and the funding of the NDDA beautification project? Does anybody have any questions? The next, I guess I'll go into next steps after this meeting, after we meet. And if you don't have any questions or comments on this and approve the item, it will move on to the Board of Trustees, and then that money will be authorized. And then the checks will be cut, and they'll be deposited, and then the loan will be paid back as we do each year. So with that, does anybody have any questions on the beautification funding resolution?
Okay, I don't have any questions on this, but I just wanted to mention after we're done approving this or voting on it, I just had something for the meeting minutes from January, and I wasn't on the call yet, so I just wanted to chime in on that after this item.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the beautification resolution?
I have a question. This is Tanya. I was wondering, will the traffic circle be part of the project this year?
Yes. Judy specifically talked about figuring out a way to make that work this year. So yes, because she feels passionately about, since that is the first thing people see a lot of times, that she wants to up that. But there's a lot of challenges with the site, and I am not an expert on it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But I know that.
Could I send you a suggestion that you could forward to her?
Of course, because she's looking at more perennial options there. I know she had some different ideas, so please feel free. I can send you up, hook you up.
That does good, I think. Okay, in bad soil.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you, Tanya. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the beautification resolution? Let's see, since it is a
action item, yes, and I apologize.
Item, we need to open it to public comment.
Yep.
Is there any public comment? Hearing and seeing none, I would look for a motion to move this forward.
Barb, actually, this is Scott. Quick question.
Oh, hi, Scott.
I'm looking at the resolution itself, and towards the bottom of the final page of just the resolution, are we going to run into an issue if it doesn't actually have the date? It says adopted this day of February 2023.
No, Scott, that has to go that way because it's dated when the mayor signs it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I will make a motion. Go ahead. To approve this.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Okay. Scott Papich.
Yes.
Catherine Vallon.
Yes.
Trustee Corvalin.
Yes.
Steve Roundtree.
Yes.
Danielle Kraus.
Yes.
Ron Mitchell.
Yes.
Andrew Dewart.
Yes.
Barb Hart.
Yes.
Steve Carreau.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. That takes us to the next one, which is our public. Yes?
Sorry to cut
Go ahead, Steve, with that question, yes.
Yeah, thank you. It's really minor, but I just wanted to correct the record on the meeting notes from January, because I remember I was traveling to Africa that day, so I wasn't present at that meeting, but I appeared on the roll call. So I
Oh,
just wanted to,
okay. I'll check that and make sure. I'm sorry if that happened. You're right, you weren't on that call. I'll make sure.
okay, thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
just wanted to correct it. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Do we need to do anything further with that to correct it since it's part of our um, consent agenda, or how does that work?
You should go back and make a motion to
A motion.
amend the minutes.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to amend the minutes of the consent agenda to include that Steve Carreau was not on that meeting.
Second that.
That way, does that work, or do we need to do a?
I think you can, is anyone opposed? I think that would
Is
be
anyone
fine.
opposed?
Okay. Anybody opposed?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
Next
for
week,
catching that.
yeah, thank you. Next, we
The-
have our public art funding resolution. And that is also Kate.
Sorry, I've got a little cold. Same as beautification. Last month we discussed public arts budget and the beginning of their process. And so this is resolution 2023-11 and the funding of the NDDA public art project. During the 2023 budget process, public art funding in the amount of $20,000 was approved by the Nederland Downtown Development Authority Board and the Board of Trustees. The attached resolution is needed to authorize the funding and make it available for eligible expenditures. The attached resolution 2023-11 is for your review and vote. My question for you is, does the board approve or support resolution 2023-11 and the funding of the DDA public art project?
Great, thank you, Kate. And does anyone have any questions or comments about the public art funding resolution? Should we go around the circle real quick? Let's, just to make sure. Let's start. Ron, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Thank you. Danielle?
No questions. It would be really wonderful to have this approved. Absolutely. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Steve Roundtree?
No comments.
Great, thank you. Catherine Ballin?
Questions or comments?
Great, thank you. Scott Papich?
No questions, no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Corvallin?
I just want to say that I think that the Public Arts Committee is doing a great job.
Great, thank you. Andrew Dewart?
I have no questions or comments, and second Tanya's kudos to public art. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Steve Carreau? You lose him? We may have lost him.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Oh, there you
Um,
are. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I just want to say no questions or comments, but I approve of it, and I really appreciate all the Public Art Committee has been doing.
Great, thank you, Steve. And I have no questions or comments either. Do we have any public comment on public art resolution 2023-11? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve the consent agenda item. Is that how you say it? 2023-11, approval of the Public Art Committee's budget of 20,000.
Second.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Scott Papich,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Andrew Dewart,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes?
Steve Carell,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. That brings us to the next action item, which is the aim for traffic and safety support, which is 2023-12, and Kate will present that.
Yes, Resolution 2023-12 and the funding of the DDA Traffic and Safety Support Grant Program. During the 2023 budget process, Traffic and Safety Support Grant funding in the amount of $30,000 was approved by the DDA Board and the Board of Trustees. The attached resolution is needed to authorize the funding and make it available for the community. At the NDDA Board meeting in January, the budget amount was reduced by $8,500 for the Netter Days event use, leaving a total of $21,500. A total of $30,000 is to be authorized per the budget, and the adjustment will be made at the March DDA meeting. And what I mean by that is that at that time, then I'll bring you a formal action that we'll send to the Board of Trustees so that it goes to them kind of as an FYI that we move that fund around. But because of the budget process and the way that we've encumbered funds already, that's why you're seeing it this way. So my question for you this evening is, does the board support Resolution 2023-12 and the funding of the DDA Traffic and Safety Support Program? Please let me know if you have any questions.
Great, thank you, Kate. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this one? We can go around in a circle again, or if anyone has a question or comment, they can just speak up. I have no questions and comments. Hearing and seeing none, I would ask if there is any public comment about Resolution 2023-12 for traffic and safety. Also hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to move this forward.
I move that we advance Resolution 2023-12 forward as discussed.
I second.
Great, thank you. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Yes. Scott Papich,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Andrew Dewart,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes.
Steve Carell,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Great, thank you. That brings us to our final action item of the evening, which is the special event funding resolution. And Kate will bring that.
All right. Resolution 2023-13 and the funding of the DDA Special Event Grant Fund. During the 2023 budget process, the special event grant funding in the amount of $10,000 was approved by the NDDA Board and the Board of Trustees. The attached resolution is needed to authorize the funding and make it available for eligible expenditures. Does the NDDA Board support Resolution 2023-13 and the funding of the special event grant fund?
Great, thank you, Kate. And does anyone have any questions or comments about Resolution 2023-13?
I do.
Okay,
I would like to see us add a loan fund for events to approximately have half grant and half loan in the next budget go around.
so is that for next year, Ron?
2024.
Okay, great, thank you. Can we add that into our notes for next year, Kate?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
This is Scott. Quick question. So this 10,000 would be approved in its entirety because we took 8,500 out of traffic and safety for Netter Days. Is that correct?
Yes, that was what the board motioned last month and approved.
Okay. And Ron, what you're saying is for next year, are you saying that we try to aim for 10,000 in funding and 10,000, in other words, 10,000 in matching if somebody else wants to take a $10,000 loan? Or are you saying 5 in event funding and 5,000 in loan?
10 and 10, 20 total.
So the point of that, it sounds like it would be to get whoever comes for that funding, to get them to put a little bit of skin in the game. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, I don't think that the grant is enough to really substantially support any event. So I'm kind of worried about that. So if they have access to additional funds, I want to try and see if we can get to income producing projects. This would be the first.
Great, thank you, Ron. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the funding for this year, 2023-13? Hearing and seeing none, is there any public comment about this resolution? Also hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to move this one forward.
So moved.
Thank you, Ron.
I'll
Right.
second that.
Thank you. And Kate, would you call the roll?
Scott Papich,
Yes.
Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Andrew Dewart, Barb Hart,
Yes.
Steve Carell,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Does look like we lost Andrew there.
Yes, I saw. I don't
Yeah.
see him anymore.
Okay. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is going to be presented by Nikki Dunn, and this is about also with Cape Roofing and Exteriors about the pedestrian bridge construction.
So hi all, tonight with me on the call is as Alex, and I wish Andrew hadn't dropped off, but c'est la vie. Alex is from Cape Roofing. So as you all know, I came to you last year and requested some funding and help with getting the covered bridge, the pedestrian bridge, that desperately needed the repairs. I sought out several different quotes from several different companies, and one of Andrew's suggestions to me was that we find a company that can do it all rather than find one company for siding and one company for roofing. So my favorite company that I came up with was Cape Roofing and Exteriors, and Alex got me the quotes of about around the $29,000, almost $30,000 mark for the completed project. That would include a new roof, new siding and trim, window boxes, and the disposal and throwaway of the old materials. Where I'm at now in my game with Alex is that I need the DDA, the NDDA, to turn over the money, so to speak, to me, and we need to sign those contracts with Alex so that we can begin the choosing of the materials. What I'm also seeking tonight is a liaison from the DDA, and I believe that liaison was going to be Andrew DeWart, that can work with myself and with Cape Roofing to complete this project without having to come and give you guys my reports on a very regular basis. Miranda can always add it to a staff report, or then Andrew could report what's going on to you guys with Cape Roofing. The reason for that is because I am inundated with work, and having to deal with another project is a lot for me. I don't mind working with Alex at all. But then having to come to meetings on my after work hours it's a lot.
No,
So
and Nikki, I'm
I
happy.
am,
This is Kate. I'm happy to report on that monthly as well. So yes, Andrew will definitely be, kind of our subject matter expert, but I'll be kind of, the connection between the board and town.
great. So so the next point is that I am going to be signing this contract with Alex, and getting this work started. Miranda, is there I sent you an email, I don't know if you got it, but I sent Miranda an email that Alex had actually sent me just before this meeting, and it's it's one of the pamphlets for some of the materials for the roofing. And so that we're like, we got to pick materials so that Alex can get it all ordered so that we can start construction in the spring. And that's where we're
Nikki,
at.
do you want me to send that on to the
So
DDA or just share my screen really quick so they can see it?
you want to share your screen really quick so that they can see that? Probably be good.
Will you send it to Andrew as well?
I will. I can just, yeah, I can get it out to the group if that's helpful.
Yeah, just so that then we make
Sure.
sure he sees it. Because
Sure.
Andrew, just so that the board knows that there has been a lot of emailing between us, and Andrew has been looking and reviewing all this information, and so he is already, on board with us, taking this on and that.
So
I
the,
do wish
the
he hadn't dropped
materials that
off.
you're looking at now, yeah, the materials that you're looking at now, and Alex is on. So if we have any questions for Alex, he can answer them probably a little bit more in depth than I can. But this is the look of it gives you a look of shaker wood roof without actually being a shaker wood roof. And so we would look at, for us in the project that we're working on, we really kind of want the look of the covered bridge to stay very close to what it is now. So we're looking at that chalet wood color. It's the one Alex recommended, and I agree. And so then in his truck, he has actual materials for siding. And so I'm hopeful to meet up with him very soon to look at the different siding choices, potentially with Andrew, and help me pick which siding we want to go with. But that's kind of where we're at. So, so that's where we're at. Does anyone have any questions for Alex while we have him on here? I just want to say thank you, Alex, for taking the time out of your day and your night to come and hang out with the DDA and myself. And I do look forward to working with you and your company. So I do appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Nikki and Alex. I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I think that Kate and Andrew can make sure that we're on the right track with this. It looks like great materials, and I think the biggest thing is let's get it done. Let's have this finished so that it's all fixed up for summer.
Cool.
So just to
with your
follow up.
Go ahead, Kate.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I just wanted to loop in because Nikki had asked for, to access funding. So the next step, if you all approve this conversation and this feels good to you, the next step would be an action item next month where I would bring the resolution similar to what you saw for like beautification and public art. So that would be the way that we would really get the funds released after this conversation. It would be the formal action next month.
So it would be a month from now. Do we have to put any kind of deposit down to secure the services?
Alex, can you speak to that? Yeah. Because yes, I think we do need to put a deposit
Hello?
down to
Can you hear
secure
me
the
now?
services, and I have.
There he
There
is.
you are, Alex.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Hello.
Hey, sorry, I'm very new to this kind of environment. So, I mean, deposits always help. There's been a fluctuation in typically every quarter. You know, we're looking to do this job probably June, I'm guessing, late May, just due to weather. So, is there subject to material increase? Yes. Is it dramatic? No. It's deposits help. We can hold where we're at right now with these estimates. Right now we're at about 29,000, I think 700, rough, just a rough number to get everybody on the same page. I guess deposits, we could do that of 25%, and then that would withhold us where we're at in this agreement. And then, who is delegated to meet me in person for signing the contract, picking up the colors, or do we do another virtual meeting, and then go from there? I mean, I just like I said, this is very new to me, so I like meeting people in person. And if there's somebody that I could meet direct at the job site, it just runs a lot more smoothly, I think.
Yeah. Yep. As far as the contract goes, Alex, you'll be meeting with myself and maybe Miranda Fisher at Town Hall. So that piece is easy. And then to pick the materials, maybe me, you, Kate, and Andrew can all meet up maybe at Town Hall, take some pictures, and go over to the bridge and actually look and talk there in person.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, let's just do like a deposit of like $6,000, and then that keeps us, kind of in the realm of where we're at.
So can we give you that $6,000 in March?
Yeah. That's
okay. Because that's basically, we'll have it authorized. So we have the money.
That sounds
just
like
so since you are new to
what's
this.
best for you guys. Yeah. No, that'll be fine. Let's just do that.
It's that we have it. We just have to do a couple of things first to get it approved, and then we can get you the check. So I could get it to you the second week of March, most likely.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not asking for the check tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
It's what works best for you guys is going to work for me, and
okay, that's very kind of you.
Work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we just want you to know too that like there's not an issue with it. It's just the timing of it because it is we have to follow the public process.
Yeah.
And so
I totally understand. Totally understand. I respect all of it. There's no rush. It's just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and the deposit comes when the deposit comes, and then we'll work from there. It'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments about the covered bridge project? It looks like otherwise we'll just lift it up next month.
Quick question. This is Scott. Nikki, I'm working from memory here because I don't have these notes in front of me from that time. But when we talked about this, I guess it was 1 or 2 meetings ago, was there any type of structural or support work or repairs that we were thinking of or you were recommending at that time? Or was it all just roof and siding?
It is cosmetic mostly, for the most part. But if we don't do the cosmetic, then we're gonna look into like some deeper like structural stuff. When Alex came and looked at the actual structure of the bridge, and then we had CDOT come and say that the structure of the pillars of the bridge are actually quite in good shape, even considering they got hit with the 2013 flood. And then Alex came, when he came, he looked at the beams on the interior and those kinds of things, and that's all looking good. So what we're planning on doing right now is protecting what we've got and putting that new roof on. That new roof is totally falling apart, and the siding is really bad. So and the window boxes are falling apart on us. The one thing I will say, with us starting construction in June, that will kind of topple over into the beautification department realm. So we'll need to have conversations further down the line about the window boxes potentially being planted up later in the season. So, yeah, but thankfully, structurally, the bridge is looking sound.
Cool. Thank you.
Just to add on that, for my scope of work, what you guys would be expecting from me is the new roof. The siding that I'm putting on is called Diamond Coat, K-O-T-E. Diamond Coat comes with a 30-year paint warranty and then a 50-year manufacturer warranty. And then we're redoing all of the flower boxes or planters, whatever you want to call those, with cedar material. And cedar is a water repellent naturally. They'll all be sealed. It's all going to be a new cosmetic detail, but just kind of give you guys a scope of kind of the material that's going to get involved. Of, you know, like the siding for one, it's not something that you're ever going to have to go stain again. You're not going to go paint it again. Those flower boxes being on there, after 29 years, you remove those planters, that paint's supposed to be to a T. And if it's not, Diamond Coat comes back and it paints it all for free. Cape Roofing, we offer a 5-year labor warranty. So anything that defect on our labor side, you guys are covered for 5 years after that. I hope that all was heard.
That sounds great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the covered bridge?
This is Danielle. I just want to say thank you guys so much for working on this.
Great, thanks, Danielle. Is there any public comment on this? I don't know if a couple people from the public. Hearing and seeing none, since this is just a discussion item, we can move on to the next item, which is our final discussion item of the evening, which is the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce. Just opening it real quick. The local business owner, Christian Van Eck, who is on the call with us, has proposed creating a Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce. The initial meeting was held at Salto on Wednesday, February 1st, and almost 40 people attended. I'm going to hand over the meeting to Christian now so he can share a little bit of information about what was discussed and what the organization may look like, including possibly why a 501c3 versus 501c6, why Peak to Peak, rough mission, and board organization information. Welcome, Christian.
Hi, thanks for having me. I won't take up too much of your time. You guys have really gotten through your agenda really fast. We can celebrate that by getting it all done. Yeah, we are starting, or we're looking to start a Peak to Peak chamber. The first answer, or the first question there would be why Peak to Peak and why not just Nederland? We're suggesting this, or I'm suggesting this, based on interviewing some of the former members of the prior Nederland Chamber of Commerce, giving us a wider breadth of businesses that we can bring in and support, and also welcoming the entire community from Peak to Peak. We are just in our initial phases, and sort of one question that I would have for all of you is, given that Nederland is Peak to Peak, and we might be a good source of partnership, additional funding for events and things like that, if you guys have any advice that we should take into consideration while forming, that would make it easier to work with the town and particularly the NDDA, it would be great to know, and I'll try to make sure to bring that up to everyone. Our rough mission is pretty simple, a cooperative economic development in the Peak to Peak area and meeting each one of the businesses at their stage in the business life cycle, from startup all the way to existing traditional businesses that have been around forever, that are institutions to our towns and counties. Let's see, in terms of 501c3 versus 501c6, we don't have a final decision there. There might be a little bit of a lean towards 501c6 to begin with, because we can self-declare that, as opposed to waiting for the continuous roundabout with the IRS, I believe on the Form 1023 or 1024. which might take a little while if we wanted to organize as a 501c3. Our meeting, we are still setting on the date. We think that we're going to propose somewhere around the 15th of March, and we believe our next meeting will actually be in Central City or Gilpin somewhere, spreading the love throughout the Peak to Peak community. There were about 40 people that attended the first meeting, between the 30 or so people that showed up in person and 8 or so that were online. Not all of our online guests were serious participants, sadly. But it was a great showing. There was a lot of support and enthusiasm. I've been just absolutely bombarded with people asking me to be added to the mailing list and to get this thing going and start the communication. And I'm wading through that as we speak. With that, does anyone have any questions for me?
Great, thanks, Christian. I think several of us were actually at the first meeting, which was great. I don't have any questions or comments. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? We'll post the information in the newspaper as well as on social media as soon as we find out when it's going to be, so that you know when and where the next one will happen, and kind of go from there.
Yep.
This is Steve Carell. Hi, Christian.
Hi.
I didn't hear about that meeting, but I am interested in the whole topic. And I'm wondering if for other people on the board, maybe who didn't attend the meeting, and Barbara, if you think it's reasonable, if Christian could just give like a quick synopsis of what you covered at the meeting and what seemed to be the items that the qualified participants were most interested in.
So initially, I really thought we were only going to get a handful of people, so I was a bit surprised by the turnout, but we made it work. What we really covered was a lot of the research that I have already done in terms of the pros and cons of 501c3 versus 501c6, in terms of what types of grants we could go after, what type of activities are appropriate for those different types of organizations, one being a charitable not-for-profit and the other being a business league or chamber of commerce not-for-profit. We also shared that some not-for-profits do both, with either a 501c3 being the main or a 501c6 being the main and having another subordinate organization underneath. That's another option. There were a number of people that came from outside of Nederland, which was fantastic. And it was pretty much universal support. We didn't do an actual vote, but everyone held up their hands, so that was a good sign, that we would support businesses that were not just restaurant businesses or retail and brick and mortar businesses, but also the business services that are often run out of out of homes and basements or outside of town centers. And we had a good representation of some of those there with Good People Tree Service was there. There were quite a few people from the real estate community that were interested as well as short-term rental services that were interested in what we could do. Part of what we shared was a desire to create alternative revenue streams. I think to Ron's earlier commentary, we could be another source of potential matching revenue for events that are held within these towns. So we're hoping that we can build up a suitable fund to participate in that way versus just being another draw on already pre-existing funds. In terms of other things that we went through, it was generally just, are we all actually interested in doing this? Are people willing to actually get involved? And it was a fantastic turnout in that regard.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving me that synopsis. And I think my wife may have contacted you, and I think we're probably on the mailing list for future. I mean, that's Jennifer, correct?
I think she did. I should have probably had some sort of form or sign in because making sure I get everyone in there is a bit of a challenge, but I will make sure that she's there.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Christian. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Danielle, thank you, Christian, for working on this and bringing it to the Peak area. I do like that better than Nederland, just as a point of view for reaching out to further people. Where's a good place to look for your next meeting being announced?
So we do have a website already up with that will post some of that information if you just wanted to bookmark it. It is peak2peakchamber.org. And then additionally, we will be publishing the next meeting date in the newspaper. We might look at the weekly register as well as on Facebook. I think we're also going to ask the town to use WebEx as opposed to the Zoom that did not work as well as we had hoped.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And Christian, it's Miranda. You're always welcome. We're happy to set up the Zooms for you as needed.
Thank you. Yes, that was a very interesting experience.
Yeah, and I've heard, I did not see, but yeah, no, WebEx, we moved away from Zoom really early on for that exact reason. So happy to coordinate those with you.
I do not think they were local.
Probably not.
And Miranda, that works even if we're meeting outside of Nederland?
Yeah. So we can always get you started and then kick anyone as the host. And that's not a problem. Most of us can get it started from our phone, and then we'll just all, if we're not staying around, we'll jump off.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We'll definitely have someone monitor this time, I think.
Yes. Anyone else?
Barb, this is Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Christian. Hi, I was there at the meeting with you, and we talked for a little bit. Thought it was a great meeting. You know, we've got the whole DDA here on the call, or pretty much most of the DDA here on the call. And one of the questions that came up in that Chamber of Commerce exploratory session was, how is this different than the DDA? How does it, or is it going to compete with the DDA, or how is it going to complement the DDA? And I think that's a really an important thing for this group on this call to have a sense for as well, if anybody is curious about that. And I remember that when we talked about what would the objectives be for a Chamber of Commerce, I remember that, you know, two of the big points were, one, to support smaller businesses during their slower seasons. Another one was education, right, of the businesses for all across a variety of topics and subject matters. And I'm trying to remember what the third objective was.
I believe the third one was a relatively standard one, which was marketing and supporting tourism to our areas, depending on how that fits our business needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I had in my notes too. That's what I seem to recall. So I think it is actually quite different than the DDA, and that's, you know, a good thing for everybody on this call to get a sense for.
Yeah, there was some confusion as I think from the public side, there was actually a little bit of confusion as to what the mission of the DDA actually was and how they engage with the business community in Nederland versus something like a chamber. And thanks to the coaching I got from several members that are on here, the chamber really can't do much with infrastructure, but we can do marketing and pooled resources, education. It's another avenue in order to support our businesses in our towns. And it should be cooperative. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cross purposes here necessarily.
Great, thank
This
you.
is Steve Carell too. Sorry, Barbara, I just wanted to chime in on this conversation because I think it is a good point Scott brought up, you know, because for years being on this board, on the DDA, there's been a conversation that keeps coming around is, you know, do we want to be a chamber of commerce? Are we supposed to be a chamber of commerce? And we always come to the conclusion that no, you know, we don't want to be and we are not supposed to be. And so I think it's nice that someone like Christian is putting in the energy and, you know, seeing, and it sounds like from the initial meeting, there is some real interest among the peak-to-peak businesses. So I think that's great because I do feel like the DDA is, you know, it's not meant to be a chamber, and we're doing some things that are sort of chamber-ish, you know, with business support and business services, but it really isn't the, you know, the core goal of a DDA as it's formed. So anyway, I just wanted to jump in on that, you know, just to reiterate that point. And yeah, I think that there isn't a competition between the two. It's really a potential synergy.
And it might not be me that you guys will be working with necessarily. I'm sure I might end up getting thrown into the leadership group, but not necessarily. But we'll figure out how to best work together and cooperate so that it can be a really positive multiplying factor for what we're all doing.
Right, sure. And I guess just to be even clearer on my point is that, yeah, I don't see any type of competition between the two. You know, it's really, we're serving different purposes in a great way. But since we're both dealing with the business community, we could be synergistic, as you're mentioning. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
This is Andrew Dewart. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate it. Sorry, guys, that I've been in and out. I really do apologize. Yeah, I'm about 5 minutes from the bottom of the canyon, so unfortunately, I don't have too much more time. But I think something that would help me at least, and maybe this is just me now driving back from kind of a bit of a hectic at times weekend, is that like the different layers and overlapping interests that the chamber has in regards to and I realize town and town codes are their own thing, but they're not an island. And the chamber and what the chamber wants is its own thing, and it's not an island, and everything's integral. And I wonder how we can like, not to get too out there on everyone, but just it's all integral, and what is the best way, and knowing that not going to make everyone happy, and this is a sidebar conversation even to what you were talking about to begin with, but I guess that's kind of where I'm at, is like, and if the chamber is the force that can bring various interests that seem opposed together, or just etc., like that would be great. I don't know, but I just I need to kind of like vocalize out loud emotionally what I'm feeling, and so I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce? Thanks, Christian, for joining us this evening and sharing that information.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Christian.
Thanks. Thank you. That's the last of the discussion items, and at this time, I would ask if there is any other business. I do have one small thing, but I want to check with everybody else first. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, I would like to request that we start a process. As everyone knows or should know, Kate is just about at her 2-year mark. And before things get too busy this summer, it would be good time to do an evaluation. And I think that right now is the perfect time to just propose it and share that I'd like to discuss it more at the March meeting. And this would be both a self-evaluation and a evaluation from the board. And this is something that town does regularly. We didn't do anything last year as we were kind of coming through all of the changes that were happening. And I feel like it would be perfect timing. So I'm going to just ask for board support to move forward with that process and bring it to you next month at the March meeting. Does anyone have questions or comments?
Barbara, it's Steve Carell. Would that be bringing an evaluation to the meeting as an action item, or what do you foresee?
It's what town does is kind of a very simple form. The board goes through and maybe there's a couple of people that work together to kind of gather the information. And then Kate fills out a form and says, this is how she feels about all of it. And we could bring those forms to the next meeting, or we could send out those forms, which are from the town, now and discuss them at the next meeting. But I think that that would be an executive session overall rather than having an open community session about it, unless Kate's fine doing it in a community forum. I think it's really evaluating where we're at, and it's been 2 years. And is it time for a raise? Should we be talking about full time? Like, there's so many things we've discussed over the last year. I think that it's time to look at that and figure out where we all are and come up with that with Kate as a plan for the future.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wasn't sure what your thoughts were about how the process would go. And yeah, I agree with all that you said. I guess one idea maybe is if there are forms that the town has, my experience is that town clerk is raising their
No,
hand.
it's
Is that
Miranda.
Miranda has
Steve,
them,
when
yeah.
you're done, I was just going to offer a little clarification. So when you're done.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I think that in the past, like when I was the chair and Hope was the ED, I basically did an evaluation, and I think that we can improve on that process for sure. But I do think that you, Barbara, as the chair, probably has the most interaction with Kate on a day-to-day basis and on a project basis. So I would really, throw my weight behind your kind of assessment on that. And I thought that maybe the rest of the board could fill out, whatever part of these forms they have any knowledge about, because I think there'll be good parts of them that they just haven't experienced with Kate. Whereas you've, been working with her weekly for a couple of years now. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out. That might be a good improvement. And I'd love to hear Miranda's thoughts on anything else.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify how you would kind of typically do this. So you really have two options. Well, a couple actually. You could, appoint someone, and maybe that's Barb or two NDDA members to work on soliciting feedback from the other board members, or can compile the document and then meet with Kate. There's also an opportunity for the board to meet as a whole to discuss performance of an employee. However, that employee needs to consent to that meeting happening in an executive session where they would not be present. Otherwise, if the employee did not consent to that, it would need to be done in an open meeting. I imagine most people can sympathize that it would be appropriate to handle this on a more intimate scale, as a great opportunity to just like, what is the vision for the future? Because to Barb's point, I do think 2 years, Kate's been here for 2 years. This is a great time to share that, the next steps. But my recommendation would be to do it kind of on that smaller scale where 1 or 2 DDA members gather input from the rest of the group.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, that sounds in line with what I was thinking too.
Great, thanks, Miranda. And we can get these forms are pretty simple. So I think that it would be definitely, if 2 of us or 2 people overall wanted to be part of this, and I don't really, yeah, I do interact with Kate probably most with more than anybody else on the board, but definitely other people are great at asking questions and participating as well. So is there a feeling of how we would want to do that? Is there anyone else that would want to say, gather feedback from other board members?
What was your question, Barb?
If we want to just do this very, very basically, is there someone else that would want to be on? I guess it would kind of be a committee, even though it's just for really one purpose. on that interacts with Kate as much as I do, or a lot anyways, that would want to help gather that information from other board members, then it's just a very simple process of you talk to four, I talk to four or whatever to get all the information together, and then present that we have the information in March and figure out where to go from there. Is that the right way, Miranda? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it really, if you're going to take this kind of offline of sorts, then there really is no reason to bring it back to the board because everything should be handled on that more like one-to-one level. Because if you're asking for the board to look at the evaluation before being given to Kate, you then have that executive session,
Okay.
open meeting, closed meeting situation. And so that's why I would think you'd try to just do it on a lot of one-to-one basis. If that's what, and maybe people can think about this and send you their feedback. I know it's like, sorry, Kate, I know it's always awkward to like talk about the person in front of the person. I've been there. I totally get it.
Okay.
So maybe you just kind of take this offline a little bit and think through together one-to-one what the best way is. But I just, we just went through it with staff. I always think there's value, but Kate, I don't want to speak for you. I don't know if you want to give your insight, but I think on a more intimate scale is better in these situations.
Yes, I agree. But I've never been through this myself, so that's why like I'm open and your guidance is really appreciated, Miranda, and like going with the town process, that's what if that works for me, if we're kind of latching on to like how that works, and if that sounds like it feels good to the board too. I will offer the because of the projects over the past year, I work with Ron a lot, I work with Andrew a lot, and Danielle with public art, just because those are our projects that, use a lot. And Judy is a staff member with beautification, but just I offer that up for your information as well, just based on your conversation.
And one thing I can offer, so what has happened historically, even just with town administrators, is a bit of that 360. So Barb, here's another option for you is it's kind of a survey of sorts. There's questions that ask the NDDA board members to comment on performance and goals and just giving feedback to Kate. And you do that through like a Google survey. And there's one for the board itself, and then there's one for like community liaisons. And so maybe that's members of the public art committee and other identified people who work closely with Kate. And you get a bit of that 360 model. Plus you have Kate do kind of that individual self-evaluation. And that might be a really great way to go. And I can share kind of the questions we use historically for Karen to build that. And we're happy to help you construct that. It really was a cool way to see how a person was doing from kind of all perspectives.
That sounds great. Thank you, Miranda. And if we have questions and if we only reach out to one board member at a time, can we just use this a standard form of some sort? Obviously it's a different form for Kate, but is that okay to share as long as we're only sharing it with one person at a time?
So you can't like circulate the answers of others amongst one another. So you may want to just go the survey route. So what that would be, Barb, is then you would gain access to, you'd ask all 9 members here to fill it out. You would gain access to that. You would then combine the data into one final kind of evaluation form. But it gives you the opportunity for everyone to chime in.
Okay. That seems like a good way to do it and keep it offline and kind of just let people answer at their own leisure, with a deadline to put it on for next month's meeting. So if that's okay, I think that I'll brainstorm that a little bit more and then send it out to individual board members, not sharing any answers from anybody, but only sharing the exact same questions, which some people will be able to answer differently because of the different interactions everyone has. And
Right.
is
And
there,
if it's helpful, I can send you the questions that were, I mean, I realize it's town administrator, but the ones that were created for Karen, if that's helpful, I can send those over.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen some of those before. That would be great. And then we'll bring it back next month. I know we did lose Scott Papich. Is there anyone else that would want to be part of the gathering of information so that there are two of us? It's really just kind of connecting the information together. I know everybody has a million things that they're doing right now. And I could ask Scott too, who we lost.
Sorry, Barb, this is Steve Carell. Were you just asking if any other board members would be interested in like teaming up with you to get information from the other board members? Was that the question?
Yeah, and just to put it together so that there are two people working on it, so that it's not just one person gathering it all and putting it together.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think it's all online. I don't think it's any real like in-person stuff. It's just taking the questions, putting them into a form so that they are ready for next month.
Right. Yeah, so I think that sounds great because I do think it's good public practice just to have more than one person doing it. And
Yeah.
so, and like you alluded to, we all have a lot going on. So I wouldn't like to be that person, but I think it's really valuable. So if nobody else volunteers, I would do that with you and, like handle half the surveys or whatever it is and report back to you.
Okay.
But I don't really want to. So if anybody else wants to, for sure they can go for it.
Who's not on 3 committees? And Scott's not here, so we can't ask him. Catherine, would you be willing to help me gather that information?
I'm kind of crushed with a couple of deadlines right now, and so that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like, can I juggle this in and get it done in the next 3 weeks when I also have some very tight deadlines on some stuff going on. So if no one else will do it and you're falling completely flat, I will try. It would not be easy. If it were something that was coming back in 2 months, absolutely. But I've got some travel coming up and some tight deadlines myself.
Okay. All right. And I know I have done quite a few of these before that have been pretty basic, like we're talking about. So,
Yeah, and Barb, I'll totally do it with you if nobody else, steps up in the next few days.
okay. All right. Well, why don't we leave it like that, and we can send out an email follow up of the board meeting next week, like we did last month, that kind of says, here's what we did, here's where we're at, here are the deadlines for next month, so that everybody's aware of when to turn their stuff in, so that we can have that in a timely manner and get the information back out to everybody, so there's plenty of time to review it as well. So let's leave it like that. I will also check in with Scott and see if he is interested, and if not, Steve, I'll round back to you, and I'm going to round back to you
Okay.
on some other stuff anyway. So
Okay,
that would be
sounds
great.
great. Thanks.
All right. If there is no other business this meeting, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.